So what did that look like? What steps did you have to take to prepare to go full time? All right. Welcome to another episode of the RV Voice. Today we have a very special guest, our first, I guess, influencer from Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all those things. It is exploring outside the 303. Name's Kaylee. Welcome, Kaylee. Hey.
Ah, thanks.
Yeah. So Kaylee, you've been living in an RV for 5 years, you said, and it's you, your husband, and 2 kids, correct?
That's right.
And I see a fur baby in there.
Yeah, that's Diesel. He's our 11-year-old lab mix.
Awesome. Well, if you want to give a quick background, how you decided to do this and how it all conspired or inspired, what inspired you to do this, I would love to hear that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up camping as a kid, and so did my husband. And when our kids were little, about maybe 3 and 5, we decided to buy a Craigslist camper. And we bought this small little pop-up with our tax return money, and it ignited a love of weekend camping for us. And so we were avid weekend campers for probably, I'd say, about 4 or 5 years. And just like with the combination of growing up camping and then now we could do that with our kids, it just kind of morphed into doing longer stays. So instead of just Saturday or Friday, Saturday, it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then it would morphed into, hey, let's go for a week during the summer. And then it was, let's go for 2 weeks. And then my husband had this brilliant idea and he's like, we should go full time. And I was like, no, you don't do that. We are not retired. You can't possibly do that with a family. And so God bless him. He's a very patient man, and he helped me to see that you can be a successful family. You can still work and provide for your family and be present and full time. It's not for crazy people. And so it took him about a year to convince me. And so it was through watching a bunch of YouTube and following families on Instagram that it finally opened my eyes that we could do this. And so that we decided to do that. I think it was like May of 2018. And so I finally, we agreed to it. And then it was like, okay, well, now we have to because we just had a small hybrid trailer at the time, a bumper pull. And so it was like, well, we need a new truck and we need a bigger rig, but we have to find out what rig we want. So it took us about just over a year to get everything kind of situated. We got the new truck. We ended up getting a 36-foot travel trailer. It had 3 slides and the bunk room in the back. And we went with the travel trailer because we were comfortable with towing a travel trailer. That's what we had always had. And it wasn't as big of a sticker shock to us to buy a travel trailer. And so we officially launched in June of 2019. And it's been, we just celebrated 5 years.
That's incredible. I mean, I'm sure you found out quickly that the travel trailer was a bear to pull anyway.
Yeah, well, we had a Ram 2500, and so it did just fine. And we had that thing dialed in, the anti-sway bars.
Oh, yeah.
We knew, we just had everything honed in on that. And so we had that rig for we had it for 2 years, but only really a year and a half of when we went full time.
That's awesome. But there was a lot of preparation and planning to do this, right? So your husband was bugging you for a year, it sounds like, come on, let's do this, poking the stick. So what did that look like? What steps did you have to take to prepare to go full time? That's a complete downsize of a lifestyle from a home, 2 kids and a dog. What does that look like? Kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so when I finally agreed to it, I was like, let's hit it. Let's just go. Because it was in April or something like that. And I was like, we could do it 2 months. And my husband's like, whoa, you cannot, no, we cannot do this. If you had agreed when I originally brought it up, we could. But, and so, like I said, we we knew we wanted a travel trailer because we were comfortable with that, but we wanted to find the right layout. And so we started like scouring the internet. We were in Colorado, and so there was a bunch of RV dealerships that we could go to. So we went like every weekend and just walked through them. And like literally, I felt bad for the sales guys. Like I would sit in a trailer for like 2 hours and I would be like, this is me cooking. This is me putting clothes away. Like just trying to feel like, would this feel right? And so it took us about a good 6 months to figure out what rig was going to, like what size of rig was going to fit us. And then once we knew the general size, we kind of had the weight idea, and then we could go buy a truck. Because we had an F-150 and it was not going to pull the size of trailer that we needed. And so we finally decided on the layout that we wanted. We weren't specific on on like a brand. We just knew the layout. And so we ended up getting a Coachman Catalina. And so we got that, and then we bought the truck to fit it. We have a Ram 2500. And then so like that was like, oh, good. Got the trailer. We got the truck. Check. Now we have to tell our work, like, we want to do this. We have to not necessarily get their permission, but let them know that we want to do this and we want to be able to work remotely with them. And so my husband actually his boss came to him and was like, I want to promote you. And this was right before, we weren't going to tell him until like 6 months before we were going to leave. And this happened like 9 months before. And my husband's like, well, sorry to break it to you, but we have different plans. And so that kind of forced us to talk with our works a little bit earlier than what we wanted to, but both of our jobs have been super supportive of it. We're still with the same companies, and they have been with us the whole time. We're so grateful to be able to work remote and do that. So that was nice to be able to have that, like, okay, trailer, truck, jobs, good. And so, and then it was like, okay, now we got to figure out, like the house. Are we going to rent it? Are we going to sell it? How do we do that? And so after looking at everything, we decided to just sell the house, downsize everything. And honestly, it was so freeing to get rid of the stuff. Because like you think about like spring cleaning, like I'm going to clean and get rid of things, all this, but like this takes this to a whole new level. It's like, I don't need 75 towels. we need 8. We need 2 for each person. Like I don't know, when you start the purging process, it just feels so freeing and you just really get in the zone of it. And I would take we did mostly on the weekends because we were working and the kids were in school. And so it's like, I'd take one room and it's like, okay, what's donate, what's keep, what's trash? And then what are we taking with us? And so we would just go through each room and just purge it. And the kids started getting into it as well. But yeah, it seemed to work out pretty good. We ended up keeping, I think we had like 10 boxes of things that we left in my mom's house, just for storage, like keepsakes. And the kids were little, so they had treasure boxes. So they kept things in there. And yeah, that kind of filled up the rest of that time before we had left. And then our house sold faster than we had anticipated. So we were left, so our house sold, like we got like 10 or 15 offers the first night. We picked a buyer, but they wanted a quick closing. So instead of like a 60-day closing, we got like a 35-day closing.
Woof. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were like, okay, let's do it. And so we were in Colorado in the summer with no reservations because we thought we would have time. So Colorado in the summer is very hard to book spots, but we were able to figure it out. But yeah, it kind of all was like this huge whirlwind thing. And I remember after we closed on the house, we went back to the house and dropped off one more thing. And we were just sitting in the driveway, and it was like this whole feeling of like, I pray that we're doing the right thing. Like all of this hard work that we've put into this and the emotions and the feelings, like we're all crying because we're saying goodbye to this old lifestyle, but we're so excited to start the new one. But it was just a huge mix of emotions. And we've loved it ever since. I have no regrets.
You're good. It's so out of the norm to do this, right? It's kind of like, me, I'm 31 and single. That's not normal, right? But like everyone's like, by this age, you need a house and you're going to have a house the rest of your life. Well, that's not the normal anymore. This is something different. Obviously it's going to be scary. You're going out on a
Yeah,
limb,
absolutely.
taking a risk, downsizing your life into a tenth of what you had ish, keeping some boxes of your old life, but it's awesome. But it changes your whole daily life and your routine, right? So that's also scary as well. So that kind of brings me to the next question, if you don't mind. What does that look like now? Your daily life, your daily routine. How do you manage everyday tasks, cooking, cleaning, and laundry on the road? It's a totally different animal. If you could walk through that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so generally, since we've been doing it for so long, we kind of have trends now. So summer, typically, we move every week. And so we move on the weekends because we have to work during the week. And so it's usually we work from until like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. The kids are older now, so they kind of entertain themselves. And then we can go adventure. So if we happen to be by a national park, that's when we'll go hiking, we'll pack a lunch or a dinner, we'll pack a dinner, and then we'll go do those things at night because the sun doesn't go down till super late. And so it's nice that during the week we have that flexibility to be able, like, I think what I love the most about this lifestyle is you get to go to really cool locations, and I can go hiking or I can go paddleboarding because I'm already there. It's not an airplane, a hotel, and a rental car. I am there. I can still work. We can still do homeschool, and then we can go have fun. I'd like to think that we're not your typical full timers because usually only one person works, like one of the parents work, and while the other one kind of takes care of the kids, or they go and they can go explore and stuff. But I'm back to working full time now, and so we both are working, and so it kind of our schedule's been thrown off a little bit lately, just with that kind of change. But we're still just able to go and hang out in the evenings and do that. And then on the weekend, if we want to go do a cool hike or we want to go explore the local area, we can do that.
Yeah. So you guys go hiking a lot. Do you guys take tents and like camp out as well? Like you're home away from home?
Not quite yet. My daughter is getting into backpacking though, so that might be in our future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you're in a wonderful place. Colorado, one of the best in the US. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat for camping and all that, hiking and all that. So what does laundry look like on the road, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So I have a washer dryer finally. I just got it. So we got our new rig about this time last year. And so I told Steve, I was like, we're getting a washer dryer. I'm tired of laundromats. Like, it's been fine, but we're getting a bigger rig. I want a washer dryer. So we have a combo unit, and it does like the steam drying, and so it's perfect. So now we do like a few loads. Maybe do 2 loads a day, like 2 days a week or 3 days a week, something like that. And it's been such a game changer. I love it.
That's really not bad. I mean, I used to sell RVs in Lincoln, Nebraska, and now I'm out here in Boise, or Boise, depending how you say it. The combo units were always kind of like not frowned upon, but they're a lot smaller than the double stackers. So like, is that pretty good? I mean, do you like your combo unit?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I wanted the stackable units, but Steve didn't want to give up the storage space. And so we compromised with it. And it's been good. It's a little weird because it uses steam to dry it. So when you take them out, they're slightly damp. Mm-hmm. And so you have to like let them sit for a minute or two. And then you like wring out your shirt and it's dry. So it just takes a little bit of it's a slightly different, but it's been great. And we've had no leaks. We've had like no issues because that's like the biggest worry. And so it works really well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that's really working out for you. So that was one of the challenges you had to work through, but what are some of the other big challenges you had to work through and solutions you found to get through those?
Just in general about full timing?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we first started, we moved way too fast. So we were moving every 4 to 5 days, and it was so exhausting.
I bet. It's stressful
you're trying
too.
to work. oh my God, like your work, your school, you're trying to maintain a house. It was, it was so fast and it was so hard. And I had everything planned out for like a year. And it didn't allow flexibility. And everyone was like, I can't do this anymore. So we slowed down. So I think that was the biggest thing we had to learn was go slow. We have time. If we love a place, we can always come back. And not to have that pressure of you have to do everything, right? It's hard to balance the work, the school, and exploring every single day. You just can't do it. And so I think that's been one of the biggest things we had to overcome. And then as we transitioned rigs, we went from a travel trailer to a fifth wheel, and now this is our second fifth wheel. We get bigger with each purchase. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a little harder to find locations that can fit us. But we've learned, like, I can't get into national parks. Like, I just know that, so I don't try. But I can get outside of the national park, right? So you kind of just learn to adapt how you travel for the type of rig and the type of things that you want to do. So I think that's been helpful. And I think some memberships also help with finding locations and getting the spots that you want to be in.
Okay. Yeah. So just in general, parking, staying a while, that got a little overbearing at first, especially moving 4 to 5 days. I couldn't imagine
Yes.
packing everything up, moving, unpacking everything, and doing that every 4 to 5 days for how long did you do that?
6 months.
Woof. You're tougher than I am.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. So along with that, like how did you handle maintenance and servicing this thing or repairs while you were traveling or while you
Yeah,
are
so
traveling?
we are, yeah. Luckily my husband's very handy.
Yeah.
So I feel if you're going to full time, you need to be handy or you need to be willing to learn. And so being handy and having the right tools is very helpful. But we've hired out mobile techs, a lot of mobile techs actually. And it's cool if you're in a really cool, like a popular area for full timing and with RVs, there's guaranteed at least 2 techs in the park.
Oh,
So you can just walk around and you can find them to help you with those smaller things.
yeah.
But if you do need the bigger things to be looked at, we've gone to Indiana. We've gone directly to the manufacturer. We've been able to get in and get help with that. And like scheduling, like, because we move quite frequently. And so it's knowing that I'm going to be in like August, I'll be, at this location. So I can call ahead of time and be like, do you have appointments? And kind of fitting that in and scheduling that in is very important as well.
So major planning ahead. Marry someone that's techie.
Yes.
And then walk around looking for an RV tech in the RV park. I got a beer for whoever can fix this.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We had a cable slide that was about to bust, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, what are we gonna do? We were leaving in like 2 days. I was like, and we were walking the dog around that night, and I was like, hey, there's a tech. He was sitting outside. I was like, are you available? It worked out great.
That's awesome. I'm sure you made some good friends along the way as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So next like kind of ideas, like financially, this is a different idea for people, right? And it's not, you're not paying for a mortgage the whole time. You are picking up the pickup payment and or RV payment.
Yeah, we got both.
Yep. Okay. So, but you have a following now, IG, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. That's pretty awesome. So you get a little bit of that, but like you transferred your job. Are you still with that same company to remote?
I am. Yep.
Awesome. So how did that work? Because not everyone has that opportunity, right? So like, how'd you approach that with your current employer?
Yeah. So I have, we're very blessed that we're able to transition our work, right? Because not everybody has that. So my husband does purchasing. So he does purchasing for a plumbing wholesaler based out of Denver, but they are nationwide. And so when he was able to talk to his boss and say, we want to go remote, the original plan was we're only going to travel for a year. And so it was easy to sell that we want to do this for a year. And we are covered. We made sure that we had the right internet so we could be connected. We guaranteed that we would be available Monday through Friday, our normal working hours. We would make that our priority. And then we kind of started testing it out before we hit the road with them to make sure that they were comfortable with us, working remote. For my job, I'm an engineering consultant, and as long as I was we were already had like a hybrid working model anyway. And I had worked remote for 2 years from my home with this company. And so we had already that's been like an established and acceptable thing in our office already. And so as long as we could commit that we were available, we made sure we had service, and that we would come back 3 to 4 times a year to have that face-to-face with our clients and with our coworkers and things like that. It was a pretty easy sell, and so it's been great. I think COVID helped a lot with the remote working. Luckily, we already kind of had that in place, but I think it helped solidify it for us of like, no, we want to continue. We want to keep going. Clearly, we're 5 years in. So we've been able to manage that pretty well.
That's awesome. So it was like there was no hard transition for either of you. It sounds like your husband still works in the area, though.
Yeah, we're in Colorado right now for his work, so he's going into the office. But yeah, it works out. It works out good. And he's actually flown from wherever we are. He's flown back for a week at a time, a few times, and so that makes it really helpful. Just to keep those relationships going, and that face-to-face time is really important.
It really is. Yeah, I'd love to go remote too, but we're working on that.
A tour, you need a tour.
Yeah, well, we'll get there. We'll get there slowly but surely. I'd love to like bump into you guys, somewhere like, hey, I'm coming through Colorado. Stop at this campsite. Right. Hey, how are you? This is Kaylee again. Right. I think it'd be super cool. On that, like budgeting advice, do you have anything that like you would like to say to someone considering this? How would they budget for this versus house? I mean, obviously it's kind of a trade-off, but what other budgeting advice you would give?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think it's important to, and you might not know this right off the get-go, but you'll learn it, is what's your traveling style? Are you a resort person? Do you always want to be in the coolest, awesome, like close locations to the cool things, or do you want to be far and away? Because the more you move, the location you're at all increases cost, right? If you're moving every 4 days, you're not getting a discount on being like if you stay a month, for example. Mm-hmm. And the more you move, the more fuel you'll need because you're moving. And so it all you got to decide kind of how frequent you want to move and where you want to stay. So if you want to do if you want to stay at Disney Springs, Lake Wilderness is what they call it at Disney, like that's $170 a night, right? Like that's expensive and adds up really quick. But if you stay 45 minutes out, you might be able to get a spot for $45 a night. And so you got to kind of just decide what that looks like. Your food will stay the same. Cell phone will stay the same. Car insurance will stay the same. There's a lot that stays the same. It's just the location and how often you travel that will really change the cost and the budgeting for you. And like we have a truck and trailer payment, and so that adds to it as well. So if you don't want that and you can buy a used trailer or a used truck, that'll help you a lot too.
Oh, big difference. Yeah. Did you buy new? Yeah. You bought the Montana new, I'm assuming.
We did. Yep. And we just got a new truck last year because we got the Montana, so we needed a bigger truck, but our truck is a used one. It's not new, but we do have payments on it.
That's still super awesome. And the Montana.
Yeah.
Wonderful product. Wonderful. Yeah. It's a wonderful product. I wish we sold them in Lincoln because it's an easy sell. They've been around for a long time. They have almost a cult following, really, but they were like the first nice fifth wheel that came out. So obviously there was other ones as well, but you mentioned internet earlier, and that's kind of a tough one for a lot of people. Some people get like SD cards and I can't remember what they call them. I think it's called like a wave. Yeah, that. And did you do that, or did you do Starlink, or what did you decide to do?
Yeah, so we actually have a combination. So we have a Pep Wave, and we have we have a T-Mobile card that we have. So we have an unlimited hotspot with that. It's a business line. And then we are borrowing a friend's Starlink. So we've been borrowing it for about 6 months. and we wanted to test it out before we would commit to buying into it, because it's pricey. You know, it's like $600 to get it, and it's $150 a month for the service, and so it adds up quite quickly. And so we wanted to make sure that it was that we really want to commit to it. And then also our cell phones are Verizon, and so we have to have backups. We've always had at least 2 to 3 different service providers because we've been all over the country. Verizon works some places, T-Mobile works some places, AT&T works some places, and so we had to make sure that we were covered no matter where we went, because we have to for our jobs. Yeah. And so I think what we're going to do is I think we will buy our own Starlink here probably this year, and then we'll keep the AT&T hotspot the T-Mobile hotspot. We used to have AT&T. I'll keep the T-Mobile one, and then should be good, because even with Starlink, you have to have a backup.
Wow.
So it's not 100%. You have bad weather, you have coverage with trees, you have other RVs in the way. Like, you have to have a backup with it, even though it's so expensive. But it does work really well.
Yeah, well, they're still sending them up there. It'll get better.
It's only going to get better. Hopefully the cost will come down, but
yeah, well, maybe not. We'll see. But you've been doing this for 5 years now. You've had to make some really cool friends along the way. So, like, community and connection, how does that work over there? I mean, there's a lot of full-time RVers that you've ran into, I'm sure. And then there's some people that just, I'm guessing you've stayed at RV parks where people actually live at those RV parks. And walk us through that, making friends that way.
So I feel the biggest thing that helped us make friends is we joined full-time families, and we started going to their rallies. They also have a chat. So, like, they're not a part of Thousand Trails, but a lot of full-timers with families go to Thousand Trails, and they have chat groups for those specific locations. So you can roll in Orlando, and there's a chat group there. And so you just plug in, hey, I'm here. We got kids. We want to hang out. And there's like 30 people. Yeah, come over. We'll do this. And so we've been able to meet so many friends and make really good connections because of full-time families and because of Thousand Trails. And like, Thousand Trails isn't everywhere. It's mostly on the coasts. But they tend to be where, like, people want to be. Like, during the winter, you're in Florida, you're in Texas, you want to be warm. So that's generally where everyone goes. And so we've made a lot of friends that way. And honestly, through our Instagram, I have been able to meet up with so many people and just make connections with them. On our last rig, we used to have our name on our trailer, and people would be like, oh my gosh, you're at my campground. Let's meet. It's like, okay, let's do it. And so that was a really cool way to be able to kind of break the ice and, like, be able to meet with people. And then I think the other way that we meet people is through my husband. So we call that. Yes, we call him the camp whore because he's very social and he likes to go out and talk to everybody. So he helps. I'm more introverted, so he helps me get out there and meet people because he's already talked to Suzanne down the road and learned about her daughter. Like, it's just what it is.
That's awesome. So what is Thousand Trails?
Yeah, so Thousand Trails is a membership that you join. They have, it's kind of like a timeshare for RV spots. Gonna make it, we'll say that. So you buy into the membership. They've like tons of different levels. We bought like a medium low level into it. And so we can stay for 3 weeks for free after you pay your dues or whatever. So we can stay up to 3 weeks at a time, and we can go park to park to park to park. And so it makes it really helpful, especially like in Florida, because it's so packed in Florida during the winter. And so we're able to bounce around all the parks, and there's just a ton of families there. And we really love Thousand Trails. There's, of course, pros and cons to it, but that's kind of the gist of what it is.
Awesome. So you've made a lot of experiences along the way, a lot of memories. What are some of your favorite ones? Kind of share with us that.
Yeah, I think, so we did a rally, our very first rally with full-time families. We did the Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque. And so it's 2 weeks that you are like, our rigs are you are like an arm's width away from the next rig from you. Cause it's called rally parking. So you're like right next to each other. But there was think 50 families. There was like 100 something kids for 2 weeks. And they have like the first week that's all organized and they have events and food and things like that. And then the next week you're just kind of hanging out. But it's so cool to be able to connect with like-minded people and like I just find it interesting. Like, we find people with kids, right? Because that's what we have, right? We're parents. And so it's like, I'm able to connect with them and learn about their story and how they hit the road and why they do it and why they picked their rig and the tweaks that they've done to theirs. And then we're able to share about ours. And it just really opened our eyes to what this full-time community is like. It's like people are so helpful and willing to help you get water or help you if you have if something goes wrong. It just opened my eyes to the community that was available, because it can be lonely sometimes doing this lifestyle, depending where you're at. And if you're like me, I tend to be more introverted. I'm not going to go walk around and say hi to everybody. It's just not my style. But that can lead to being lonely, right? Because I want someone to come to me, but that doesn't always happen, right? And so you kind of have to force yourself to sit outside and be with, like, say hi to the people walking by with their dog. And like, you kind of have to force yourself to be friendly to be able to meet with people and build that community.
Yeah. Have you seen differences between like different states, or is it just because everyone's from everywhere all the time? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. I find that summertime, it's harder to connect with people because they're there with their families. And so they aren't necessarily looking for community. They're just looking to be with each other and go do an adventure. Where during the winter, I feel people generally, of course, it depends where you are in the country, but I feel generally it's more people that want to meet other people and to gather together. They're not so focused on just their own family time or their family unit.
yeah, I could see a lot more weekend warriors during the summertime, and then more
Yes.
like snowbird
Yes.
full timers on the RV parks and all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, I can believe that. So, well, you've answered a ton of questions, but I have a question about advice for beginners. So if someone wanted to get into this, what would be like the first thing you'd be like, hey, this is what you need to know, and you need to know this and this? What are those two or three things?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna go into full timing and you've never camped before, I think you need to get into a camper. Whether you rent it, whether you have a friend or a neighbor that has it, you need to go borrow it for a week and just kind of feel it out, right? Like, I think that was one advantage that we had, is because we had already been camping. We already knew what it was like. So that wasn't scary for us, but I know that can be scary for a lot of people. And so just testing them out, seeing what would actually fit for your family, I feel would be really helpful. And then my second piece of advice is, if you are going to go full time, don't treat it like a vacation. You can burn through a lot of money real quick if you're treating it like a vacation. So
Yeah.
you don't need to eat out every night. You don't need to go do all the stuff every day. Like, pick and choose your things, because we definitely, like, we blew a lot of money at the beginning. So it's like, oh, I need this and I need this and I need this. And it's like, you don't really need all the gizmos and gadgets. You kind of need just the basic stuff. Decide if you're going to eat out, once a week, pick it wisely, or pick one activity. You don't have to go balls to the wall crazy and try everything and do everything and make sure you have all the latest and greatest stuff.
Yeah. You still got to keep up the lifestyle. You got to make the money, keep the
Yes,
money, spend it wisely,
absolutely.
but still live life. That's a
Yes.
big part of it. You're going places, you're seeing people, you're meeting new people. I mean, that's a big part of the experience anyway. Just full
Yep.
time RVing across the country. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff along the way without paying for it.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome. I've driven across the U.S. in several different ways, and so has Jordan. Jordan's driven from here, Boise, all the way over to Maine, Vermont. Yeah, that's a long ways. I couldn't do that. He did it like 2 day stretch or something like that. 3. What a weenie.
Oh, yeah. We've made that drive. Like, we've gone all the way. It's a long drive.
That's awesome. So how many states have you been in?
42.
Holy moly. That's in the last 5 years. You've camped and
Yep.
stayed.
And a lot of them we've been multiple times.
Holy
Yep.
moly. Jeez, I'm Pete. So what's missing? You got 6 left.
Yeah. So Minnesota, Kentucky, West Virginia, Vermont, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Massachusetts.
So
I
some of
think
the
that,
small
oh,
ones.
yeah, I think in the lower 48. Yeah, yeah. And of course, Alaska and Hawaii, we haven't hit either. But
Yeah.
I think I think that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Minnesota, you definitely have to hit. It's a wonderful place. Yeah.
Yes, I
Have you
want to
been
go
through
all the way to the
Nebraska?
top where there's like the Thousand Lakes.
Yeah, the border waters. Yeah, I really want to go up
Hmm.
there as well. Where in Nebraska have you stayed?
So we did Lake McConaughey.
Oh yeah. Do you like that?
Yeah. So we loved it. It was so cool. I couldn't quite convince Steve to go onto the sand and park. And so we just got like a campsite right there, but we were like 200 feet from the water. So it worked out really well.
Yeah. Did you see people getting pulled out by the big 4-wheel drive tractors?
Yeah, he wasn't down for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people getting pulled out. I've seen motorhomes go into the water. It's not good out there.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I
Yeah, I
got
was
two
like,
more questions.
no.
Yeah, I got two more questions for you. Last one, second to last one. What are some favorite gadgets, gizmos, add-ons that you've had? I see you did one the other day. It was like a tarp on your. It was on the
Awning.
awning. Yeah. I mean, that was
Yeah.
a cool one. I've never really seen that. I think I've seen it walking through, but never really like linked it. That's a good idea. What are some other ones that you have?
Yeah, so we love the sunshade. It makes it so much nicer to like sit outside and enjoy. It cuts the heat down really good, and it gives you that shade. Also, if it's cool outside, you can put a little propane fire pit under it, and it'll
Ooh.
keep the heat in there really nicely too. So that's one of our favorites. We have a clam, which is like an outdoor tent area, and so we can all sit inside it and hang out. So it keeps the bugs away. But honestly, we use it mostly when it's cooler out and you can put up some of the sides. And again, you put the fire pit in it and it keeps it nice and warm. You just
Yeah.
hang out and talk. So those are some of our favorites. We just installed a bunch of solar on our RV. So we now have a whole solar system set up. We can run, the whole coach is inverted. We can run everything. And so that's been a really cool thing. We went boondocking for 21 days straight in April, and it was amazing. We were in southern Utah for that. And then I'm trying to think of like a simple gadget. Oh, Steve it's a water meter. So if you're boondocking, it can tell you how many gallons you're putting into your tank. So you don't have to like
Oh,
guess or like
wow.
keep going inside and checking. And so it just, it's like $10 or something like that. And he's like, oh, I filled 60 gallons or whatever. And so that's been a really cool little gadget that he likes.
That's super awesome. You said 21 days boondocking.
Yeah.
That's
Straight. Yeah.
all solar, no generator.
Yep.
Holy moly. What time of year was this?
It was in April, so it was pretty good, like decent weather. I think we got like in the high 70s for temperature.
Okay, so but you weren't cranking the ACs the whole time.
No, no, we actually were more concerned about running the heater at night, because like it's gas to start it, but it still has to blow and it still has to go, and so that can take a lot of your battery power because you're not bringing in solar at night, right? But yeah, you did great. I think the lowest our batteries got was like 32%. So we did good, and we had snow even at one point.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it worked out really, really well.
That's crazy. Do you have an idea how many watts you put on the roof?
Yeah, so we have 1900 watts on the roof. We have 600 amp hours in batteries. And then we have two Victron 3000 watt inverters. And so, yeah, like I said,
Wow.
we can run the AC, the microwave, we can do all that. It just depends, how much sun you have, right? I can't run it
That,
all day. Well, maybe. It depends. I guess I could.
yeah.
Depends on how much I'm refilling it, like, or how much the sun's recharging.
In the Vegas basin, you'd be all right.
Oh,
It's all
yeah. Yeah.
sunshine.
Not at 100 degrees, though. That'd be
Yeah,
way too much.
that's true. Lastly, what are your future plans? What are your goals? Are you going to keep this RV journey going? How do you want to keep this evolving? How do you evolve this more than you already have?
Yeah, we get this question a lot. So we have no end date in mind. We get like my family's always like, "What are you doing? When are you settling?" And it's like, there's no place that I want to be all the time. And so I don't see us settling down anytime soon. But if we do, I don't think it would be in like a home and we get rid of the trailer and we do that. I feel we'd probably have some land here, maybe some land here, a condo here, just kind of because just that travel bug is, I feel, is so ingrained in who we are and what we do now, that just sitting in one spot just doesn't feel right. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to keep continuing as we want. We're looking into going to Baja, Mexico this winter. So that'd be something new and different. And I want to hit all the states. So like, I don't know, like, well, that's my goal. So maybe next year we'll be able to, knock off the rest of them. Alaska would be really cool to see. And then Hawaii, I think the only way that we could count Hawaii is we go and we rent like a camper van and tour around. That'd be the only way I could count that.
You got to count it. He's got to be in a camper.
It has to be. Has to be.
Yeah. You're outside the 303. Got to be in a camper, right?
Guaranteed, yes.
All right, Kaylee. Well, thank you very much. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Tell the people.
That's a good question. I just feel like people ask like why we do this. And I feel we wanted the time with our kids. And so we kind of dramatic, right? We sell everything we have so we can be with our kids. And you can do this in a home too, but I just make your kids a priority and make that time together a priority. Like there's so much pressure to always be so busy that you don't know what to do. Like you're just running from everywhere and it's stressful for you. It's stressful for your kids. And it's hard to balance it all. And I just challenge everybody to be intentional with how you're living your life. If it's traveling, awesome. If it's doing the sports, awesome. But just be intentional and have that time to be with your family and be present and just make those memories and put the electronics away and just be with each other.
That's awesome. We haven't even hit on the kids. How does that work? Are you guys homeschooling, remote schooling? What
Yeah,
does that look like?
so we did not homeschool until we hit the road. So we hit the road and started homeschooling at the same time, and it was very challenging. I would not recommend that to anybody. But now that we're like in our swing of things, the kids are older. They're 11 and 13. So I have a 6th and an 8th grader. And so I homeschool them. This year we're mixing it up a little bit. We're doing online lessons, but I still check everything and coordinate it all. So we're kind of mixing it up a little bit different, only because they're getting older. So we want them to make sure they're still being challenged and like excelling in the things that they're doing really good. I want to make sure that they're prepped really well for, their adult life.
That's awesome. They're still getting a lot of community when they're going to the RV park, seeing all the other kids. I'm sure there's other families with kids doing the same thing, right?
Absolutely. And they have friends all over the country. So
Yeah.
it's fun. They're like, oh, Trent called me. He's in New York. And oh, I was talking to Lily and she's in Arizona. And like, it's just cool to see them. They're like, like, I would have never imagined that. Like my 11-year-old, she's like, oh, so-and-so's here and here. And she's just so good at like keeping up with them. And like, she's counting down the days until she's with her best buddies in September. So she's like 6 more weeks and we get to be with them. And so they're really good about keeping those relationships going, throughout the country, but also being present here when they find other kids their age or really any kids really to play with. They're also very present in that moment with each other too. So it's cool to see them, how their relationships are blossoming and how they're so good at making friends. And I think that's just a part of this lifestyle is you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to just be willing to go talk to somebody. And I think that's such a good life skill.
That's super cool. That's going to go a long ways for them and they'll appreciate it looking back later in life. It's like, it's going to go a long ways. I can see it already.
Yeah.
I travel a bunch myself. I got friends all over the world now, which is great. But I didn't have that opportunity as a kid. I didn't travel a whole lot, but those kids, they're going to do well later in life. It's going to be awesome for them. Excited for them. Yeah. Well, Kaylee, is there anything else? Because I got my question out. Awesome. All right. Well, guys, follow Kaylee. She got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. She tells you all the things, how to do it, what she's got cooking. She does the gadgets, gizmos, lifestyle videos, the husband running around the RV park, all them good things. Exploring outside the 303 right down there. She's on all those platforms. Kaylee, thank you so much for joining us in the RV Voice. I've really enjoyed listening to your story, and I'd love to hear more from you later on. So
Great.
Best of luck to you, and we'll sign off. Stay tuned for more all from the RV Voice.